to be a 34-12 in the fourth quarter, and Golden State takes a 2-0 lead over Portland. The Blazers played as well as you could for 3 quarters of that game, and Golden State still prevails to protect the home court. Inside the NBA, presented by Kia, comes your way next. We'll have the highlights of the night. We'll be talking to Joe Borgia about the end of the San Antonio, Oklahoma City.
You found Joe?
Yes, we did.
Joe was hiding out on us last night.
Inside is next. Portland was trying to become the first team to beat Golden State twice this season, and they led most of the way. Golden State didn't lead until the fourth quarter, and then they ran away from them to win Game 2. And we welcome you to Inside the NBA, presented by Kia. Ernie Johnson, Kenny, Chuck, and Shaq. The highlights in just a second. First, the schedule for Wednesday, just one game. It's the Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers who will play at the Q and will hit the air at 8 o'clock. You saw his numbers in the 10-point fourth quarter. He finishes with 27 on 7 out of 20. But, I mean, you look at that team is just, they just keep on coming at you. And a guy like Festus Ezeli, who didn't play in Game 1, played a minute and 20 seconds in this game before the fourth quarter. Then he comes up with 8 points and a block.
Number one, scrimmaging is not the same as playing against Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. I just would wait until they lost a game. If we're up 2-0, like I say, because you can do all the stuff that you want to in practice. He's probably not like he's going to go up and down the floor like it's a Game 7 in practice. But to go out and try to guard a C.J. McCollum or a Damian Lillard just off cold turkey, I think that's a lot to ask of anybody.
Not only that, Ernie, when you're talking about an MCL sprain, you know, rehab is all about going straight. You ride the bike straight, you swim in the pool straight. But when you're dealing with that MCL, then you try to come out, play a game. Now you got to start doing that lateral movement. So,
going off picks, banging knees together.
It
comes a point, though. Can I get you to hold that thought?
Okay.
Steve Kerr's live. Portland was shooting 50% through 3 quarters, held to 26% shooting in the fourth quarter in that 34-12 Golden State onslaught. Now, what were you about to say?
Well, I understand what Charles and Shaq are saying, but it's going to come to a point where he's going to have to play game competition, and he's going to be rusty, and he's going to have to get himself back into game shape. So if it's Saturday, Monday, and I understand what Steve's saying, if he's healthy, he's going to be rusty, or he's going to have to play through rust if that happens. So there's no way to save him anymore if he's healthy. Get him on the floor. We're not going to win a championship with him or without him. So we have to try to do it with him. But if he's healthy, he's going to have to eventually be thrown to the fire.
How about Portland's side of this, Shaq? Here you are leading by double digits a lot of this game, double-digit lead going to the fourth quarter, and a chance to steal the home court, go back to your place, tough place to play, and it slips away from you.
You know, they had them. You know, Chuck makes a great point. You know, a lot of times when players, and, you know, we were probably guilty of this, you take tough shots and you make them. Now that's part of your steady diet. But, you know, in the playoffs, especially in the fourth quarter, you got to sometimes slow down and get a real good shot, especially when you have a team up like, you know, Golden State in double digits. With a team like that, no lead is safe. So, you know, you take a lot of ill-advised shots. Golden State get the rebound, they get out on the break. Draymond does what he does, gets the crowd back into the game, gets everybody in the game. They had this game, they let it slip away. They got to take smarter shots and be able to score in the fourth quarter.
And 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter, too. When Golden State was making that run, they had some empty possessions.
But that's the problem, Ernie. When you got a lead and you take bad shots on the road, especially when you're playing those guys, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. And that's what happened. Sometimes you have to be smarter as a player. And first of all, CJ and Damian make tough shots. But you have to know the time and the score. You're up 10, you're up 6, you're up 3 or 4, and you're still taking those tough shots. And at this point, the house is on fire. And you got to, you can't make those tough shots. Damian, as great as he is, he didn't score in the fourth quarter.
And the other part about it is they're such a perimeter team that they're not a great offensive rebounding team. A lot of times when you're driving to the basket, you can get offensive rebounds, tip-ins. But on long jump shots missed, you don't get that many offensive rebounds. And so I'm not sure. They got out rebounded tonight again, 48-39. you know, they're not a great rebounding team. So you're not going to get extra possessions. Then if you turn the ball over, then they don't really pressure you to make you turn it over. So you can play at a pace, a comfortable pace, and
go ahead.
You don't have enough possessions to take bad shots like they do.
You know what's interesting, Ernie? If you actually look at the stat sheet, if somebody had told you that Draymond Green was going to go 7 for 20, and Clay was going to go 7 for 20, and Sean Livingston going to go 6 for 15, if you had these stats before the game, you would think, like, man, the Trailblazers probably won that game. But when I don't even know the stats from the last quarter, but that's when the whole thing flipped. Because they said Clay only made 7 shots. He must have made the last 5. He must have had 5 of those in the fourth quarter. Because that's when the game was decided by him, Draymond, and Festus Ezeli.
And Golden State bench outscores them 35-21. Iguodala had 15 of those.
I can respect it. You struggling, you try anything.
What would you try if you're Dwayne Casey?
I got to give him a short leash because my obligation is to my team. I can't let him. He's had basically 8 bad games in a row. My obligation is to my team. You're the head coach. That's what your obligation is. He can't play. I think he played 40 minutes tonight. I can't put him out there for 40 minutes if he's not playing well or he doesn't have confidence. And Corey Joseph.
Well, so would you bench him? Would you start Corey Joseph?
Nah, I don't. I'm gonna give him. Just have a short leash on him, Ernie, because I can't wait. I waited 8 games. He's earned that respect. He's an all-star. He's earned my respect, but my obligation is to Kenny, to you, and to Shaq. Just because I like y'all, we can't wait because this is going to be over. So I don't bench him, but if he goes 1 for 5, I got to bring in Corey Joseph.
Kenny, Chuck, question. You ever play with a guy that was awesome in the regular season and every year in the playoffs he just wouldn't step up?
I never played with a guy.
I have. I play with a lot of guys like that. Maybe he's just one of these guys. Maybe he don't like the pressure. Maybe he can't handle the pressure. You know, I'm not a shooter. I don't know much about shooting, but I heard you say he didn't hold his follow through. So if you're practicing that the same way in the game tomorrow with all the people and more pressure, it's still not going to help you.
Yeah. Two parts. Your part was, I think, spot on in terms of shorter leash. That's all. Because if you take him out the lineup, you may lose your team too if he's one of your team leaders. So guys will go, wow, well, if he do that to Kyle, or now Kyle doesn't have the same intensity to get other guys ready. So you just have a shorter leash with him, and you like I said, you go 1 for 5. But going back to shooting is all repetition. And the only way to fight out of a slump is to get in the gym. And so he says, I'm going to get in the gym right after the game. I might not have done right afterwards because another part of shooting is having your legs. So getting that rest and then coming back first to be the first one in practice tomorrow and the last one to leave, it kind of dictates that. But I know in his mind, he's like, I won't be able to sleep if I don't get tired enough to sleep because I'll be thinking and replaying too many things.
Hal just told me the most incredible stat. Corey Joseph is shooting 58% in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. As a backup.
It doesn't matter,
Yeah,
Kenny.
it does.
First of all, there's a difference between being a backup and a starter. There is a difference. But how long...
There's efficiency, though.
How long is your coach going to say, we're going to ride it? Like, the series...
You're not playing against Roger, who's getting 26 right now.
But I'm saying, Kenny...
It's a difference coming against...
He can't...
The rookie Richardson, playing against him.
I understand that. But, how... You can't... You agreed with me. He got
short leash.
I
agree.
But
short leash. You get short leash in the first and short leash in the third. If you play well, you get to play your normal minutes.
Yeah.
If you don't, we got Corey coming in. But I'm going to finish the games with you.
Right. Meantime, just give me a word on D. Wade. 24 points tonight, 3 steals, 2 blocks, iced the game with a steal at the end.
I think they have momentum from the Game 6, Game 7 Charlotte. They didn't get a lot of rest, but they're playing well. Dragic is playing well, and you know, in fourth quarter situations, he's been doing this his whole career. He has the ability to take over the game. Overtime, you saw Miami scored the first 8 points. He's feeling good. Everybody's feeling good. And, you know, when you don't have home court advantage, you always want to try to steal that first game. Now, after you steal the first game, now you can say, okay, let's get this second game. You know, a lot of times we've been here, and, you know, teams just, after they get the first game, they get the second game away. But I think, you know, Miami's going to try to end these guys very, very quickly.
You know what's interesting, Ernie? Cal Lowry going to feel pressure in game 2 also.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, because and Coach Casey got to think about that too.
Yeah.
Because like if they lose them first 2, this going to be quick and painless. So if he misses his first couple of shots,
he ain't shooting no more.
yeah. I mean, so it's a lot of factors in that decision you ask me.
Game 2 in that series is Thursday in Toronto as Miami swipes the home court. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You're Mike Budenholzer. How do you get Kyle Korver more shots?
Well, you got to run him off more picks. I mean, that's all you can really do, Ernie. He's a great shooter, but he's a standing jump shooter. I'm not even sure I've ever seen him take more than one dribble. I don't think I've ever seen him take more than one dribble. So you got to try to first of all, Jeff Teague has to play better. We always say it doesn't matter how well Schroeder plays. It's about Jeff Teague, because what Jeff Teague does, he gets Millsap and Horford going, and he gets Carver going. And I don't understand why he didn't play Teague more the other night. I think he could have played them together. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I mean, 2-point guards, to me, can be efficient out there because, you know, like I say, because that's the best way to speed the game up, playing both point guards together.
I agree totally, and I thought, and that probably would have helped where Schroeder has never really been in these type of environments. The turnovers that he had down the stretch, he wouldn't have had to have the ball in his hand every possession. I thought that would have been big. But I think, though, another way to get, the most effective way to get Kyle Korver off is in transition, because then he can't be found as easily. Doing the half court, when he is running off things, you can still kind of see him and point him out. But when he's in transition and you're pushing the basketball, you know, it's difficult to find guys like that. You know, we had a guy in Houston, we had Matt Bullard, who was pretty much effective that way as well. But if you get him in transition, then he also can set picks in transition and get himself free as well for the ball handler.
Kyle Korver is an option. It's a hell of an option to have, but if the main 2 guys ain't going, Millsap and Horford, it's all null and void. You know, none of those guys played good. They still almost won the game. I agree Kyle Korver needs to come up more picks, but he needs to be a little bit more aggressive when he gets the ball instead of getting rid of it. I mean, been in the NBA a long time. You could dribble or you could do other things to get open, but Millsap and Horford, they got to step up. They don't step up, it won't, you know, open up the game for the Hawks.
Game 2, Wednesday night in Cleveland, right here, TNT. When we come back, Joe Borgia on the end of the San Antonio OKC game. The playoff buzz the last 24 hours was all about the most confusing 13 and a half seconds in sports, the finish of the Oklahoma City-San Antonio game. The NBA released its last 2-minute report and said the officiating crew missed 5 calls in the last 13 and a half seconds. And here they were at AT&T Center. Number 1, Manu Ginobili stepping over the line. That should have been a technical foul shot by OKC. Then you had the contact, waiters on Ginobili. Should have been ruled a foul. Joe Borgia is the NBA's Senior Vice President of Replay and Referee Operations. Joe, look, I know it's a tough job. Nobody in their right mind would want to do it. But how concerned are you that 5 mistakes were made in the closing seconds of a 1-point playoff game?
Joe, let me ask you 2 questions. Number 1, do you think with technology, now with 3D, 4D televisions, the ability to slow calls down, that puts you officials at a disadvantage? Number 1, that's my first question. But also, secondly, I think it's very unfair for the NBA to come out after the fact and tell officials they made mistakes. Can you answer those 2 questions, please?
Joe, it's Shaq. Chuck played 20 years. I played 20 years. Kenny played 18 years. You think the ref didn't make the call because the play was never been seen before?
Can we get a real accurate, just on the play with waiters and Ginobili, because that's the one that most people hadn't seen before. What should have been the call? What should have happened? And what would have been correspondent if that was called?
Well, first of all, I just learned this. I got 2 quick questions before we finish up. Number 1, if Ginobili comes across the line in the last couple of minutes, Is that it used to be a delay of game, now it's a technical? Okay, now, second question, me and Shaq got a bet. When you in the replay booth all night, are you drinking gin or vodka martinis when you're sitting there all night?
To do it for Inside the NBA, presented by Kia. For Shaq, for Kenny, for Charles, and for Bumpy, and for Craig's sake, Ernie Johnson.